Today, we step into a terrain where sound never truly disappears, where words, especially the ones you've carried inside, cling to the walls of memory, reverberating long after they should have faded. This is where the inner critic speaks, sharp, insistent, unrelenting. In this canyon, every fragment of negative self-talk echoes back, again and again. You are traveling through a fog of thoughts that once clouded your ability to see. A journey inward, beyond the noise of the world, where clarity strikes like lightning and truth reveals itself in whispers. And everything you thought you knew begins to shift. Some call it an epiphany, others an aha moment. I like to call it the golden discovery. The numbers never seem to add up. I sat at the kitchen table with bills spread out like cards in a losing hand. The lamp above me hummed in that faint, irritating way, as if to remind me I was using power I could barely afford. The paycheck looked steady enough when it hit my account, but it never stayed long. Rent took its share first, then the lights, the water, the phone. By the time I set aside what I owed to the credit card companies, the account was stripped bare, like a tree in winter. And yet, there I was. Different day, but the same cycle, with the same results. I told myself I would never get ahead, that I was careless and irresponsible. The words fell out of me quietly, but they stuck, settling into the silence of the room like dust. No need to raise my voice. Shame knew how to linger without volume. It wasn't just about the money. It was what the money meant. Proof that I could hold my own life together, let alone build something better. I didn't notice it at first, that I was saying all of this to myself as if it was gospel. That every small mistake or setback carry a sentence harsher than anything I say to someone else. I glanced at the clock. It was 15 minutes until 8. 15 minutes until my meditation session. I prepped my electric kettle for my nightly tea. It was one of the few things that brought me joy. I poured hot water over a tea bag and sat down again. The cup steamed against my hands. The heat grounded me. My eyes drifted across the room to see the mat rolled up in a corner. Meditation had been one of the steady rituals I clung to. Some days, it felt like opening a window in a suffocating room. Other days, it was just sitting in the dark, waiting for something that never came. That night, I unrolled the mat on the floor, sat cross-legged the way I always did, and closed my eyes. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 7, breathe out for 8. The familiar rhythm, the faint hiss of air in and out of my lungs. And then, something shifted. Flashes of blurred images rippled through my mind, ones I couldn't fully make out. I tried to steady my breath, but the darkness behind my eyelids seemed to pulse. Then a high-pitched ringing in my right ear. I wanted to open my eyes, end the session, and chalk it up to being too distracted. But curiosity urged me to explore further. So I let go of any attempt to control. It was in that moment that the blurred flashes merged into one clear, vivid image. A vast valley surrounded by canyons. I was standing at the mouth of the canyon. The walls rose high on either side, their surfaces rough and jagged, as if carved by centuries of sound colliding and breaking apart. A chill breeze carried whispers, faint, fractured words I couldn't fully recognize. I stepped forward into the Valley of Echoes. I saw it before me, the valley. It stretched out like a scar in the earth, dark and hollow, the kind of place you don't wander into by accident. The air thinned as I drew closer, carrying an eerie stillness. The silence was strange. Usually in nature, there's always something. Birds, winds through leaves, insects. But here, it was like the world itself was holding its breath. My chest tightened. Each step felt heavier, like the ground itself wanted me to turn back. But I couldn't. Something in me, something deeper than fear, insisted that forward was the only way. The valley narrowed as I entered. It was as if they were leaning inward, bending down to watch me. And the silence, it wasn't silent at all. At first it was faint, like a murmur I couldn't quite place. But the further I stepped in, the clearer it became. Voices, disembodied, low, and circling. They didn't come from ahead of me. They didn't come from behind me. They came from within the stone itself. The words sharpened the more I focused on them. What had once been a chorus of whispers separated into piercing tones. Each word chose its moment to strike.
Worthless. I am worthless.
Every echo seemed to carry a truth my body reacted to, even when I wanted to deny it. I kept walking. I couldn't stop. Each step forward felt like surrendering myself to a judgment I couldn't escape. I knew something lay ahead, something larger, something waiting just for me. And I feared it, and what it had to say. As the valley narrowed, I stood before the Great Canyon. One way in and one way out. My heart pounded in my chest. My body tensed as I became fully aware of its great stature and how insignificant I was. Sensing my presence, it let out a groan that paralyzed me with fear. Then came a rumble, followed by a barrage of phrases, each one sharper than the last, accusing, insistent.
I will never be successful. I will never be happy. Everyone I know is further ahead of me.
I tried to brace myself, but each echo felt like a blow reverberating off of me, knocking me down to one knee.
I am so stupid. I always fail. I hate
The onslaught was relentless. Each phrase left me on my knees, hands covering my ears, my energy draining. I tried to block it out, but how do you block out what has always been inside of you? These echoes were mine. They had always been mine. Each word, each belief. I searched for a way out, any way out, but I couldn't find one. And in my desperation, I screamed out, "No!" My scream ricocheted through the canyon, raw and jagged until my throat burned. And for one small moment, the valley was silent. Not a soft silence or a peaceful one. This silence was thick, pressing against my skin, humming in my ears. It was as if the whole valley was holding its breath, waiting to see what I'd do. As I knelt, palms pressed to the ground, chest heaving, the quiet should have brought relief, but it didn't. It felt like standing in the eye of the storm, knowing the winds could return at any second. I waited for the voices to return, for the next blow to land, for the canyon to roar. But nothing came. The silence forced me to face myself, and in that silence, I received an epiphany. What if I don't have to accept their words? The thought startled me. I shook my head as if to throw it off. Of course I had to accept them. Always do. Haven't they proved themselves true again and again? And then another question was posed, louder than the first. What if I can choose something else? I almost rejected it. Choose? Against this canyon? Against all of this? Choice felt too small, too fragile. Like trying to put out a wildfire with a cup of water. And yet, the thought wouldn't leave. My breath steadied, if only by a thread. My hands curled into fists. I didn't know it would be enough, but in that moment, I realized it was all I had. The power to choose. I pressed my hand into the ground, pushed myself upright, trembling. My legs didn't want to hold me, but I forced them to. Yet something steadier rose inside of me. I am, I whispered, barely hearing my own voice. The words quivered, weak at first, but even weak, they were mine. The canyon shuddered. A loud groan rolled through the stone, deep as thunder. Pebbles rained down, bouncing at my feet. I lifted my head. My voice was louder this time. I am worthy of success. I am worthy of happiness. Life is good and so am I. The words surged out of me, carried on a strength I didn't know I still had. The canyon broke. A crack sliced through the canyon's face. Dust spilled like smoke. The air vibrated with the sound of splitting stone. I took one step forward, then another, and with each step the cracks widened. It collapsed in a roar of stone and dust, crashing down in a great slab that split and tumbled into a heap. The sound was deafening, but the judgment inside, it was gone. When the dust cleared, I saw it. A narrow path, winding forward through the rubble. I stood there, chest heaving, the air sharp in my lungs. The valley behind me was still. The canyon before me, nothing but ruins. I didn't know what waited beyond the path, but for the first time, I knew I wasn't powerless. As I stepped out of the valley, carrying nothing but myself, I felt a sense of pride. I had walked where many refused to go, and I had faced the voices that narrated my life for so long. I opened my eyes and returned to my living room. And though the echoes might return in time, I know how to meet them. Not as law, not as fate, but as echoes from a broken part of me that only needed something to believe in. If this episode resonates with you, share it with someone who needs a reminder they're not alone. And if you're on your own journey of self-discovery, subscribe to know when we'll speak and meet again. Until next time.